everyone, it's Amanda. I decided to try something new this week with my videos. I get asked quite often how I like living in Canada or in Toronto in particular, and I thought it might be fun to kind of address that in a video. So I'm going to be doing a two-part series of 10 likes about living in Toronto and followed with 10 dislikes about living in Toronto. And at the end of the video, you're going to see me do a shout out and challenge A Foxy Mess to do the same thing as she lives in Calgary, so she can give another perspective about how different the two Canadian cities are. So look for that at the end. But for right now, let's get started. So my 10 likes about living in Toronto. Number one, there is always something to do. If you like museums, there are tons of museums, national museums, smaller museums, fine art, history, archaeology. There's even the Bata Shoe Museum, which is literally a museum of the history of shoes. So there is that as well. There's also a multitude of festivals throughout the late spring through the fall. There are any kind of festival you can imagine. There's that, whether it has to do with music or culture or food or whatnot. There is always something to do. And not to mention, you know, living in Toronto, it's a major city. There are major sports teams here. So if you are a sports enthusiast, which I am, there's always some sort of a sporting event going on. The only thing they don't have here really is an NFL team. But every now and then the Buffalo Bills will come up and they will play here in Toronto, some sort of like an exhibition game. And I even caught, I'm a Seahawks fan, and I caught the Seahawks. They came to play Buffalo several years ago here in Toronto, so that was pretty exciting. So yeah, other than an NFL, there's pretty much any kind of sports team imaginable here, so that's always something to enjoy as well. Number two, the urban trail system and parks here are amazing. They are well maintained, they are clean, they're beautiful. Despite being in the middle of the city, the trail systems here are incredible. I happen to live off of one of them, and so I'm blessed to be able to take my dog on these walks along the trails and experience a little bit of, it's kind of like an escape from city life. So it's very, very nice to have that available here. Number three, this city is the most dog-friendly city I have ever encountered in my life. And I have lived in a lot of places, different regions and whatnot. But there's something about Toronto, it's very dog-friendly. Between the double-gated fenced dog parks with water, fresh water available, the dogs are encouraged to hang out around the people in downtown. My dog is allowed on the subway, the streetcar, the bus, with the exception of rush hour. That's the only exception. But other than that, my dog can travel on the transit just like a person. They have a festival here called Woofstock, and it's the largest dog festival in North America. It's been going on for, I want to say, about 8 or 9 years. Pretty much my dog's whole life that this festival has been going on. And it's just a huge festival. It brings people from as far as the States. It's just a fun time. Lots of dog events going on, agility tests, and prettiest dog kind of thing, wiener dog races, whatnot. Plus there's a lot of vendors that you can go and pick up, you know, doggy boutique items and whatnot. So, and lots of freebies. All of the vendors are there and they all have freebies to give out. So you show up with your little reusable bag and you just fill it up and take it home with you. So that's a lot of fun too. Also, another dog-friendly aspect of living here is in the Ontario, I can't remember if it's the Tenant Rights Act or what it is. But anyway, there is legislation where, or laws where a landlord cannot keep a person from having an animal, and it is illegal for them to charge any kind of a pet deposit. So that is something that's very nice. I mean, of course, there's always ways that the scummier landlords will get around that, but legally you are entitled to have your animal unless you're sharing ventilation system with other tenants. So that's really nice that they do that, because most cities don't. And the kinds of deposits that some landlords are allowed to get away with in other areas is just mind-boggling. Number 4, the waterfront. The waterfront stretches all around Lake Ontario, the Golden Horseshoe, down to the New York side and back up. But so the waterfront in Toronto is the full length of the city until it runs into the next municipality. There are boardwalks down there. There are docks where you can fish from. Every summer there's a festival called the Red Path Waterfront Festival, and they will bring in tall ships from around the world, and you can actually board the tall ships and take tours of them, which is, I have a thing for tall ships. It's kind of since I was a child, I have this like fascination, love affair with sailboats and tall ships and things like that. So that's really enjoyable. Along the waterfront also, you can go down there. There are beaches where you can lay out or enjoy the water. If the water's clean, you can get into the water. There is even a dog park down along the waterfront, a leash-free dog park. So the dogs can either be on the beach side or they can play in the water, and that's fun too. Also, there's ferry service back and forth there's off of the waterfront, there are these islands called the Toronto Islands, and there's one of the islands has an airport, so you can take a ferry service to the airport, but you can also take like harbor cruises, Toronto harbor cruises, and they will take you down to the other islands, and you can explore and spend the day out on the islands. That's quite enjoyable as well. Number 5. We are located near the US border, which is so nice, because every now and then this American girl has to get back across the border just to feel like she's at home again. I know after 11 years this should be my home, and in many ways it is, but I still get homesick, and if I can't fly back to the West Coast to visit family and friends or experience being on US soil again, at least there's a 2 hours drive away and I can cross the border. Plus, along the Buffalo side of New York, there's outlet malls there. Just as you cross the bridge, you can about 10 minutes down the road, there's some outlet malls. So I'll go there to shop. I'm a avid Converse wearer, and there is a fantastic Converse outlet store there. So I'll go and I'll get dirt cheap Converse, stock up, and bring them back across the border. It's not far from Niagara Falls. It's about 10 minutes from Niagara Falls. So that's nice that I can have the access to the U.S. and whether I need to shop or I just need to be there, that's accessible for me. 6. I happen to live in a part of the city that's very near to what I call Hospital Row. It's the University Health Network here, which is a network of university hospitals. So I have access to specialized care in relatively quick time just because of where I live. The rest of Canada is a little different. Sometimes people have to wait months or even years to access the specialized care that they need. But I literally live 2 miles away from Hospital Row. So I have that access to specialized medical care that should I need it. And I have, in the past, I have used specialized medical care. So I am blessed that I do have that kind of access to anything, specialized that my family doctor can't handle on her own. Number 7. Toronto is one of the most multicultural cities in the world. There, I forgot how many hundreds of languages are spoken here, but the nice part of it being a multicultural city is the festivals. There'll be cultural festivals that you can learn about different cultures and experience their cultures and watch them truly be happy and celebrate their own culture, which is great. And also the food, like I have access to it. Any kind of cuisine I could think of, I can get it relatively quickly, whether it's delivered to my door or just a quick, walk away or hop on the bus or something. I have access to any kind of cuisine imaginable. So that's one of the also one of the nice things about living in a multicultural city. Number 8, Toronto is a relatively safe city. It's probably one of the safest cities I've lived in personally. You are safe in large groups, at festivals. I mean, here and there they have been some issues in the past, or not issues, but certain events that have happened. They are very rare. It is a very safe city in groups, and if you are at one of the festivals or some sort of event downtown, it's very safe. You can be rest assured that you will be fine. Also, as a woman, you're safe just walking at night here. I mean, obviously you don't want to tempt fate or whatever and be walking where you shouldn't be without being aware of your surroundings. You need to walk without your earphones in, and that be aware of your surroundings. But overall, it's very safe city for women even to walk alone at night. Number 9, Toronto has incredible plethora of urban wildlife. Because of the ravine and trail systems that I had mentioned before, there are lots of wildlife such as coyotes, raccoons, beavers, foxes, even wild turkeys wander around in the city. Migratory birds. We are located right in the path of the migratory bird path when the birds fly back and forth between South America and North America, depending on the season. We are right in that path. So there are so many different kind of songbirds that you can see just in your yard. It's depending on the time of year, of course, but it's just incredible. I love animals so much, and so it's really nice when you're just out for a walk and you can see a fox, or you can see a little raccoon or something. It's a joy for me. I just love it. And number 10, Toronto has, compared to where I've lived before in the past, has very good transit and accessibility to transit. Whether that is public transit, they have the subways, the buses, and the streetcar services here. Depending on the line, they do run fairly frequently, and some do run all night. So public transit's very accessible. You've also got options with Uber or Lyft or private hired cars or taxi service. So lots of taxi services here. So that is one of the nice things about Toronto. If you need to go somewhere and you don't have your own personal transportation, there are plenty of options available for you without having to wait an hour for someone to come and pick you up or whatnot in like maybe a smaller city. So those are my 10 likes about living in Toronto. Let me know down below if you have any questions or curiosities or anything I didn't bring up that maybe you wondered about. I always love to hear your comments down below, and I will reply to them all. And do stay tuned for part 2 of this. I will be uploading my 10 dislikes about living in Toronto, and I will try not to be negative Nancy about it. I will try to keep a very fair, open mind about this. So, because I do have a strong homesickness, and do miss my home. But in the past 11 years, Toronto has quite grown on me. So like with any relationship, you have your loves and you have your dislikes, and but you still love each other at the end of the day. So anyway, stay tuned for part 2, my 10 dislikes of living in Toronto, and I will talk to you soon.